Her public life began as half of one of the most successful country music duos of all time, the Judds, charting 26 hit singles, 14 of which went to #1. When her mother and musical partner Naomi retired from performing in 1991, she continued on alone, adding another 20 hit singles and 3 more platinum albums to her resume. She has been a staple on TV, hosting Nashville Star, enjoying numerous guest appearances, and voicing the character of Molly on the Magic School Bus. As her personal life has often played out in the tabloid headlines, from marital discord to weight issues, her talent and the love of her loyal fan base have elevated her to single-name status. Hello, I'm Ernie Manouse. On this episode of InnerVIEWS, our conversation with country music superstar Wynonna. Is it exhausting being Wynonna?
Yeah. Can you spend a day with me and wish you could go home and have a real job? Yes. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I actually go on stage to take a break, and you think I'm kidding, but I've been doing this 25 years, and I think much is given, much is required. And an hour ago, I'm on the phone with my teenage daughter. No, you can't go to an R-rated movie. I'm dealing with, where my son can go skateboarding in Houston, where they won't, arrest him. It's just a constant single working mama thing, and music is my purpose and my passion, and being a mother is the hardest job I've ever had. And why do you think I tour? So I go out on that stage, and for an hour and a half, it's all about me.
Yeah.
Because the other, 23 hours are not. And that's why I love what I do.
When you say it's all about you, has it always all been about you? Or
Well,
was it
the
about the
memos say
music?
so.
Was it about the audience?
It was about, that's a really great question. I think I've suffered from the people-pleasing syndrome. I got into this business when I was 18 years old. Okay. And I was minding my own business, straight out of high school, trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. And the next thing I know, I'm propelled into being on the AMAs, Good Morning America, singing at the Super Bowls, and all, the World Series, and I'm famous, living in a, goldfish bowl, as they say. And it was about the expectation. It was about filling all the seats, and about #1s and platinum records and all that stuff.
But see, when fame came for you, it happened very fast. We look at people like on American Idol now today, and everyone says, oh, it happens too fast for them. But you guys went out, and as soon as the Judds started, you were a hit.
We were America's sweethearts. It was 1984, and my mom was working as a nurse, and I was straight out of high school. And yeah, next thing I know, we're opening for the greatest sheroes and heroes of music. Yeah. We are on the same stage at the Grammys with the greatest artists of all time, and it was too much too soon for me. For my mom, she was ready. She was 36 years old and ready to boogie, and I was going, huh?
But was it your dream?
My dream was to sing. I don't know about the famous part, and anybody who knows me knows that I tend to be off stage, more of an introvert and shy, and a bit backwards, eccentric. I was the one in my family growing up who I carried my guitar everywhere. Everyone knew I loved music, and yet there was an awkwardness, and I didn't fit in, and I wasn't sure where to belong, and I wasn't, into sports, and I wasn't great at school. I wanted to be in music, and I wanted to be able to be on the road with Bonnie Raitt opening for her, or being in a band and have Tower of Power backing me. Yeah, I had dreams. I had visions. I just didn't know how I was going to do it. Therefore, that's why God, put my mom on the bus with me to give me focus and direction and chores and reality checks. It was a crazy, crazy American dream story. How we walked into RCA, did a live audition with a guitar, and we made it. It's a remarkable story.
But all of this happens. Your whole world around you changes. And you said you were awkward. Does that ever go away? I mean, when we see you sitting here now, you're Wynonna.
You have no. I was just kicking drawers in about 10 minutes ago, going, crap! Oh my gosh! You know, because I think I've always had this overwhelming feeling like I'm gonna do something that throws me out of the party. You know, someone's gonna say, oh, we don't really need you anymore. You know, we've got this, and now we're gonna do this. And I think artists always feel like, gosh, am I relevant? Am I going to make it with this next record? I don't know that we ever get over that. You know,
do you ever still want that, I want to release number one, I want to have the first hit, I want to have this to go gold, platinum? Or do you ever get to the point where you say, you know what, I'm just doing this music because I love doing this music? Can you ever separate
Yes, to both. I think I struggle with a lot of things, like in the physical world, you know, I'm not exactly where I want to be, but I'm sure not where I was, so I do celebrate, you know, being healthier today. Yet, you know, who doesn't want to, you know, have goals and meet them? Yet there is a part of me when I turned 45 that did, the switch flipped on that said, you must not worry as much about pleasing everyone, and you must start enjoying yourself, or else you're going to be one of those artists that we see on TV that die at an early age, or end up bitter and alone and wonder, what the heck could I have done differently? I don't want to end up bitter and broke. I'd rather be fabulous. You know, the best revenge is living well. So that has been flipped on, and for me, I'm starting to get it, and that's why I made this record, because I said to myself, as much as I would love to be number one, who doesn't love a party, I think it's important for me to stop and be grateful for my journey.
The album is Sing you're talking about.
Sing chapter 1, because there are many chapters to come of my multiple personalities in music. I love all kinds, you know, whether it's Tony Bennett, Tina Turner, or bluegrass, whatever. I was raised on it, and it's part of me. And people may think it's a gimmick or she's trying to attempt to do this. It's part of who I am, and when you come see me live, it will make sense to you. If you try to categorize me and you try to separate, there's no way, because it's one big package that is like a hurricane. Yeah. You know, it all comes together in the shows, and it makes sense live, but if you try to put me on radio or do certain things to me, good luck.
But is there a sound, a Wynonna sound anymore?
That is I think there is a heart's cry. I think there is a deep passion. I heard you say you loved, you know, the album, and what is it about the album that people are resonating to? I think it's the pain and the joy that comes with life, and I think people, I do a lot of track vocals. We don't use Pro Tools a lot, which is, for the layman, an instrument that we use in the studio to correct our voice and to make us sing in tune. We don't use that, and the reason being is I'm old school. I believe if you can't cut it live, what is it, go big or go home? Yeah. I believe in singing it, and I will sing it until I get it right, until it feels like something so natural, like putting on that perfect pair, you know, of pants at the end of the day that you just go, ah. I want it to feel so comfortable that I don't have to, you know, fit into it. It fits me. So we work really hard on our records.
Well, it's interesting when you say that, because it took so long to make this album. And I think, and I don't mean long by other standards, but when people out there are listening, they hear a year and a half to record 11, 12 songs. How come? There's a lot that goes into that.
It's called pre-production, baby. It's like the girl getting ready for the date. It takes 3 hours, you know, to look this fabulous. I mean, you have to say to yourself, okay, it's not easy anymore. You know, we may have more technology, but that's not necessarily a good thing. It's got to mean something. It's got to be real. It's got to feel like when I breathe it, that you believe it. My friends and my lovers of music depend on me to say it like it is. I want to be real, and I want people to go, gosh, I don't necessarily really relate to that song, but God, you can really sing. You know, well, and that's awesome.
That's something that I noticed also with the name of the album, too, and I had read somewhere that you had said, you know, the one thing you know you do well is you sing, and you sing well, and you put it out there.
What a concept.
Yeah. Is that hard to do, though, to get away from the arrogance of it and understand it as an accomplishment you're proud of? How do you balance it?
That's a great question. We were sitting around a boardroom table at Curb Records, and we were literally trying to come up with the big moment, you know, release party and all these things, and everybody was trying to come up with a title for the record. And after all this stuff was flying around, I said something very simple, and that was, you know what, guys, I just want to sing. And they looked at me like, wow, you know, less is more, I think, sometimes. My life has been such a combination, such a paradox, And I am a walking contradiction. I sing about family and love and heart, yet, you read the headlines and you see what I go through. But I think that's life. I think for me, it's an attempt at just trying to be real and keep the music honest. And say to people, like last night, I said something on stage and the audience reacted to it, and I went, whoa, and I said something funny, and then I got real, and I don't know if they were ready for that, but I had to say what I had to say in my heart, or else I wouldn't be me.
Yeah.
And that's what happens to you when you share a bus with your mom for 10 years. Things just fly out, and I won't apologize for it. I'll just be myself and take my licks later.
You have a great quote that I'm probably going to slaughter, but about, when people say, when you go into rock or other kinds of music, and they say, well, where's the country? And you say, listen, 10 years on a bus doing your mother's hair, what could be more country than that?
Yeah. I mean, if that ain't country, I don't know what is. I've paid my dues. I didn't play bars for 20 years, but I lived on a bus with my mom. Try it sometime. And I listened most of the time, because, you're such a genius when you're 20. And I was meeting Bono and, hanging out with all these rock stars thinking I was really sassy. And my mom would look at me and say, I'll take you back. Appalachia's calling. Yeah. You're getting above your raisins. So, yes, I was very blessed. At times I felt cursed, but it was my destiny for me to be with her. So she would show me the way and remind me of where I come from, which I've never forgotten. I just sang on the Opry a couple of weeks ago to remind myself this is where it all started, in this circle. From the original from the original Grand Ole Opry, this is where I started. Let me not forget where I've come from in country music. Even when I sing with Heart or I get to sing with Sting, all of those are like, hi, Dear Diary moments. But I must not forget where I come from.
Is there a point that you remember when you first realized, wow, I'm famous?
Heck yeah.
What was it?
Vegas. This headline, the Judds, in 8-10-foot letters. Huge. Like Vegas Strip. I remember that. I remember thinking, this is how Elvis must have felt, because I was opening for Merle Haggard with my mom, and they gave me something like $250 per day, for food and beverage, and I thought, it's like winning the lottery. Because we come from food stamps and welfare and all that. To go from that to Vegas with your name in lights, are you kidding me? And it was Miss Judd, and, what can we get you? And so...
Did you react differently as soon as that happened?
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
I thought I was pretty cute there for a while. And then all of a sudden, crap started happening, like, the failures come, because you make a lot of mistakes in the public eye. I started being late. I started developing that, me thing. And yet I always felt like I never fit in. It's a weird combination. Stick with me, fans, because my book talks an awful lot about all the money I spent. I lost my life savings and my fortune. I was so used to, I think, being on welfare and not having. I went right back pretty quick and yet made it back again. And so I made a lot of mistakes, and I had to find my way, to find balance and to realize what I didn't want. And I did a great job of that. I knew what I didn't want after the first 15 years.
I just finished reading your book, and the part that I thought was very interesting, at the end of the book you talk about all the things you've learned. Mm-hmm. And I look at the book and I say, that came out a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. How much have you stuck with all of that? And because I think it's so easy, once we find a right way, mm-hmm. and we're like, this is the answer, it's very easy to slide. Mm-hmm. How do you stay on it, and have you stayed on it?
I had a meeting today with Don Potter, and for those who have read the book and seen the movie, he is my mentor. He's on the road with me playing guitar. He's been with me since I was 16 years old. We had a meeting today about something that he felt led to share with me. I listen to my elders. I have a great support group of people around me who hold me accountable. I know to apologize when I come in and I'm late. I have a very wonderful sort of healing recovery group of people who say to me, let's talk about that, or do you think that was a great choice, or they help me weigh the pros and cons, rather than before, because I was so smart and I was my own higher power. The Judd women were raised to almost believe we could self-pollinate. We were so alpha and so, I am woman, hear me roar. But there had to be balance with that, of realizing I really do need others. I don't need to isolate in my disease, but I need to be known in my recovery and reach out to people and say, hey, I'm having a tough day today.
Yeah.
I think I've learned since my book that there has to be a balance between self and selfless. I did not understand that. For the first 20 years of my career, it was all about, I mean, nobody ever says, hey, fill half the seats. Gold is good enough, the heck with platinum, or, you know, I mean, I've always heard my entire life what I could do better. You know, if you just lose a little more weight or you'd sell a little bit more records. It was always about what I was getting ready to do or what I could do or when I ... And now I'm learning that my best is good enough today. Yeah. And that is a total shift for me from the days of, I could have sung that better, let me do another take. Seriously, I lived in that belief system of, I can run faster, I can do better, I can outsell my last project. I think I bought into that because when the Judds came off the road in 1990, I really did believe that I had to rise above the expectation. I didn't have to just meet the expectation. I had to jumpstart it into something, you know.
And also another thing that fascinates me is the small amount of time between the final Judds concert,
yeah, 3 months,
and the birth of Wynonna.
3 months. I started actually working on my record and my career during the farewell tour. So it was like going through a divorce and finding a new relationship all at the same time. Yeah. And it was insane. And I'll never do that again. And I now know that it doesn't make sense to sweep it under the rug and act like it's not happening, but to fully embrace it. Let the tsunami wave of sadness and grief overtake you, but not get into that pity party of one, your table is ready. Suffering is optional. Pain is inevitable. And I realize now that all this happened for a reason to keep me alive. Because if I had thought about it too long, I probably would have stayed home.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I was shattered, debilitated, and I was grieving. And you can't tell a widow, a week after the funeral, oh, you'll find love again. I mean, come on. You have to say, hey, I'm here, I understand.
So what was it that got you going?
The fans wrote me. I have some of the very first letters I got where I actually have a check from a fan who said, here's $20, I'm buying your first record. And I still have it somewhere. And the letters that I got from people who believed in me when I didn't even know how to believe in myself. I didn't know how, because I never had to. I was always part of a duo.
Yeah.
I was always part of my mother who gave birth to me. And even if I was not feeling my best that day, I could sort of defer to her. She would handle it, and I could just sing. I didn't have to use my mind or be smart or clever. I could just stand back and play my guitar and let her talk. And all of a sudden it was me, and I had to be responsible for everything and everyone. I felt that way anyway.
If you had to do it over again, would you have wanted that first solo album to be as successful as it was?
Yes.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't set you up to then...
No, at a time in my life when I needed validation and affirmation. But I also am humble enough now to know that I had one of the greatest launches of any artist in the history of music. Because if you think about it, if it hadn't been for the year goodbye, they wouldn't have known to go, oh, hello. They knew because of the farewell tour and the setup and the sort of presidential campaign, she's coming, she's coming. And by God, when I did, that first week I think we sold 850,000 units. In those days, that was astronomical. I mean, people sneeze that today. But my music is a reflection of who I am, not just what I do. So people were waiting to see what I had to say.
Yeah. And if I'm couching it correctly, it was the largest selling album by a female country artist ever at that point.
In the herstory
of it all.
Of country music, I was considered the golden child and the one to watch for, and hey, no pressure. But it also validated me. I think, and I'm talking strictly from a mechanical, I ran in 3.5 seconds. I needed the numbers to show me that I had a reason to go on stage. Not because of, oh, they like me, they really like me, I can go on living. It was just I had worked my butt off. I needed somebody to kick me in the butt and say, come on, let's do it. Yeah. You know that march that the wrestler does between the curtain and the ring? That's how I felt like that record did. It was like the chant, go, 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 And once I hit the stage, though, I had to prove myself. So it stopped there at the stairs when I walked up. I had to then go out on stage and prove that I could do it live.
Yeah.
And I didn't move I stayed within a 3 feet radius of the microphone for the first 20 shows. I was like, and then all of a sudden, Shazam! I came out of my shell, and people were like, it was like watching, that acrobat that's flying through the air about to reach the hand of the other acrobat, and you're like, God, I hope they join hands. I mean, people were literally watching me hang in the balance. Is she going to make it? And there was something thrilling about that. There was a part of me that was just cantankerous enough to go, watch me. And then 5 minutes later, I would be on the floor weeping. God, please help me. Can I do this? Because people would say in grocery stores, do you think you can make it without your mom? I mean, literally. The fans were in it with me. We were, digging the trenches together, and they felt like they saw themselves in me. I had just said goodbye to Mom. Who hadn't said that? Call it moving out of the house and getting my own apartment. They were watching me grow up, and they were watching me move into my next, destiny.
On a total side note, just because you mentioned it, why didn't you have your own tour bus? Why did you and your mom share a bus?
I've asked myself that 1,000 times, and honestly, it would have been so lonely.
Really?
The chaos, I think I thrived on it. I think there was a part of me that just, she's so crazy and wonderful and wacky. And every night after the show, we'd make popcorn and laugh, and it would have been really lonely, and I probably would have gotten hooked on drugs, and I probably would have had one-night stands, and I probably would have done everything you do when you're an artist.
Yeah.
And you're away from home. An expert is just a little drip far from home. And I say that because I was just eager enough to find something illegal to do if I hadn't been brought back to the light. Because I was looking for independence, I was looking for something to separate me from my mother, and I needed that congruency. I needed that constant glue every day to remind me, you're not just a chick singer. You are my daughter, and you're valued. Yeah. And I love you. And I am proud of you. And every now and then I'd get it, man. And when I did, I'd hold on to it. And just like every other kid in the world, we want approval from our mothers. If it's not one thing, it's your mother. You wait for that approval. Do you not still, if your parents are living, do you not still go to the house and hope that they say something like, that's a really good thing, honey?
Oh, yeah.
I lived for that. Even if the world was saying, you're the greatest singer in the history of the world, I needed my mom to say, job well done.
Yeah. Do you still turn to her for that?
Yeah. A little less, because I don't need it as much. Do I love to hear it? I do save messages.
Yeah.
Where she says, I just want you to know you're a great mom. Ooh, save that message. So yes, I do, but I don't rely on her testimony to validate me to the point of getting out of bed every day, but I certainly love to hear the good stuff, and if it's not great, like she said something on national television the other day, and I brought it up and said, Mom, please don't say that.
Well, your whole family has been extremely public, especially you.
You think?
Yes, you've been very public about stuff. Why? Why do that?
I think people are fascinated by watching a train wreck. Don't you? Come on, we're rubberneckers. I know what it's like to want to know is, you look at the wreck to see if, I hate to admit it, but we're all responsible. Yeah. We are all responsible for all these artists out there who are in trouble. And, I've been there. I've made great mistakes, and I've been on, smokinggun.com, and I've been, a headline that I really care not to be. And I think people just can't help themselves looking at someone else's garbage so they don't have to look at their own. And I'm the kind of artist, when I talk to the fans on stage, as you'll see tonight, I talk about this stuff. I say, you know what? If I make a mistake, I'm on American Airlines in first class, and my son comes out of the bathroom at age 3 completely butt naked. He had this thing about being naked when he went to the bathroom. What parent hasn't dealt with something? But I had to deal with it on American Airlines. Yeah. Right before I'm at a premiere of Ashley's, my daughter has a tantrum. And I have to rely on just grace and the mercy and forgiveness of the fans and of my family and God, because I'm living it just like you are. And these records save me. This body of work is me going, yes, I have a gift. Thank you, God. I have a place to belong. Because there are days like today, I couldn't get ready on time. I had a bad hair moment. I got eyelash glue in my eye. I was trying to line my lips, and I slipped. And I'm just like, oh, my gosh, this is too much pressure. But I know that in an hour, I'll go on stage. And I know I can do that really good. Yeah. And so it saves me.
Given the choice, if you could have had still sold records, been a honky-tonk singer out there doing what you love without all the intense fame, would you have taken it?
Nope.
Really?
I love being famous.
Do you?
But I also am very burdened by it. I love it, and it's like that thing of, I wonder if people really love me or they're just being nice to me. I have to rely on the the value system of others to say, by the way, he has a record, or I wouldn't hire that person because I just saw them, put one of your pieces of silverware in their purse. I mean, you gotta rely on your group of people. But being famous, people give me good seats in restaurants. I am the American dream. People are always giving me things and saying, I love you. I mean, who wouldn't want that? Do I believe that it's true when it comes to the fans? Yes. I believe that country music is community and it's fellowship. And these records are the backdrop of their everyday life. This is not just a gig. I mean, I had a guy down front last night who actually wrote me today and said thank you because I held his wife's hand, and she's very ill, and I could tell. And I grabbed her for just a brief moment, and it transformed us both in that moment. It wasn't just an HBO special. It wasn't about statistics. It was about real life. Yeah. So I believe the fame part in terms of the fans. And when I'm walking through the airport, honey, I'm going to tell you what, those people love me that work down below the bowels of the airport and the hotel. I'm waving to the guy in the hairnet who's doing dishes. He's like, I love you. And I know he means it.
We need to get you on stage. So I have to thank you so much for doing this with us. And here's to another 25 years.
Are you serious?
I hope so.
I don't know if I can take it, but I'll try.
Thank you.
You're
Wynonna.
To order a DVD of this or any episode of Interviews, please visit HoustonPBS.org.